What's poppin'? Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. Little bit different this week. No intro, technical difficulties, but I'm running the board. The show must go on. Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Gene Walzak. And to my right on the platform right now, I got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, the Browns' own, Catrell Simpson. What's up, Trell?
Hey, Browns won this week. We could bring back the logo. Last week they were super disappointing, so we had to just go naked green. But hey, they won. We're back.
And coming little V shape at the bottom of the triangle, we got Uncle Shally. What's
going on,
poppin',
guys?
Bill? How you feeling?
Then Brownie Elf's bad luck, dude. Just be done with them.
Hey, we won. Brownie was on the field.
I get it. All right, Brownie Elf sucks, but we're not gonna get too far into that.
Haters gonna hate.
I wanted to use that as my you gotta be kidding me, but we got a lot to get into this show, and I'm looking forward to it. I got some I'm just fired up because the Philadelphia Eagles are undefeated. Penn State is undefeated. My side school, Georgia, is undefeated. I don't know what losing feels like in the football season right now. I just don't know what it feels like. I don't know how I'd react to it.
It's getting closer and closer to him just saying his school's Georgia. You heard that, Cottrell. Now it's just his side school.
That's because Penn State's still undefeated.
Exactly. As soon as Penn State loses, it's gonna be like, "Go Georgia, go Bulldogs." That's what we're gonna have.
The Bulldogs, let's ride.
It's my side, John.
I hear
but
you.
I'm fired up, bro. I'm fired up. I'm ready to didn't mean to do that. Sorry, fellas. All right, so get new to this, but we got NCAA. We're gonna recap last week. We're gonna preview this week. We got NFL fired up. Week 4. We're gonna recap last week. Some madness in the NFL as per usual. I want to thank all the new listeners, the new TikTokers. Gained 400 followers in 48 hours. Super excited about that. Thank you guys very much. Let's get rolling. Let's get popping. So first and foremost, NCAA, we're gonna recap last week. Favorite game, Catrell, what game stood out to you the most? What was the biggest letdown? Just give us your thoughts on a revved up week 4.
Favorite game, of course. I was at the night game with Ohio State and Wisconsin. Nice little blowout. Smith and Jigba didn't play, but it was great to see those guys under the lights. But outside of that, the one that I loved from last week was one of the games that I picked. I loved seeing Washington be all over. Well, not necessarily all over, but Washington take care of business. The other thing that I was kind of surprised about, I'm not going to say biggest letdown because these tests are going to happen throughout the season. I was surprised that Michigan didn't blow out Maryland. I thought it seemed like they had it clicking on all cylinders so far to start the season. And this isn't even taking a shot at them just because, I know once you get into conference play, things get a little bit tougher. And that was so far, to date, that was their toughest game so far. But I was expecting Michigan to roll a little bit more than they did in that one. I never thought they were truly on upset alert. Blake Corum's been playing out of his mind these first few weeks of college football, but I was surprised Michigan didn't roll in that one.
I think that's interesting that you bring that up. I think it's a shot. I think it's intentional.
I promise
it's a shot. Not. Bill, I think he's taking shots already.
I promise. Sorry, he didn't watch that game.
Your thoughts?
No, I mean Michigan played fine. The one glaring weakness in the game is what everybody that's a fan of that team knew it was going to be. Is how they're going to replace Ajabo and Aiden. And Maryland has a very good offensive line, and they struggle to pressure Maryland with any kind of pass rush all day. In regards to blowing them out, they were up 14 with a minute to go. I don't want to say it was a garbage time touchdown, but they were in prevent. They had people off the field. And JJ missed 3 or 4 wide open touchdown passes that if he doesn't overthrow them, they're all touchdowns and they're up by 30. So I'm not really that concerned about it. Cottrell was too busy to watch the game. He was in that shithole of a stadium they call the Horseshoe. So I'm sure he wasn't really watching it. but it's all right.
They played early on, you know. Ohio State had the night game. I had the luxury of watching games up until 4:00. So
nothing matters till the 26th of November. So
all three of us picked Ohio State to roll over Wisconsin. So all three of us picked that. All three of us knew what that was going to be. Very, very interesting. I told you Vanderbilt is literally the doormat to the SEC. Bama beat them by 52. What was it? 52?
it was
55 to
something bad. Yeah.
55 to 3?
Yeah.
Something like that. It's a joke. I was 3-1. Well, I don't know. You can be 9-1. I don't know what the super dog points are, but 2-1 on my regular picks, and I gained 9 more points from the super dog. You know, it's really interesting. I didn't see an update this week. I was wondering where that was.
it'll get done. I
had a rough week, and there's no updates.
a rough week. I got a short week of work, and I'm busy. I don't have off on Wednesdays, so it'll get done.
It got done every week. He was undefeated.
I have a short week. I have a half day tomorrow. I'm off Friday for my boy's wedding, so I have a lot of shit to get done. You're more than welcome to do it. Because you were off all day today.
Bro, we do 99% over here.
Yeah,
just do your 1%.
Cottrell, we only do 0.5%, bro. Only half.
But Bill, favorite game this week? Game that stood out the most? Biggest letdown?
I mean, the biggest letdown's got to be Miami, just getting absolutely boat raced by Middle Tennessee at home, which is really funny considering it came a week after Miami star quarterback Tyler Van Dyke said he doesn't like playing at home. He doesn't like the atmosphere. And you go out and put a stinker up against a mid-major team and get blown off your own field. That was interesting to watch. I mean, the best game for me, I think, was, minus the Michigan game. It had to be Clemson Wake Forest. That game was incredible. 2 overtimes. Went back and forth. I think you have to give Clemson credit for gutting it out and coming out with a W, but as crazy as it sounds after a win, I think I have more question marks about Clemson maybe than I did going in. DJ played better than I thought he was. I mean, that was kind of the question mark all year going in. How is that offense going to respond this year and score more points? They put up a ton of points, and the strength of that team, which was supposed to be the defense, and that front seven got annihilated all night by Wake Forest. So they got another big one this weekend, which we're going to talk about here shortly. But I mean, I think that was the best game of the weekend, in my opinion.
Clemson Wake Forest, 100%. And I said, I think we both all said this, that Clemson would win but wouldn't cover, and that's exactly what happened. It finished right between that 7-point spread. Clemson got out of there with a win but didn't cover. That was the best game of the week. There's no doubt about it. I think that the big dogs rolled. And I think that, obviously Georgia and Michigan didn't have the most impressive wins this week, but to still win, still, survive in advance. Neither team was in any jeopardy of losing their football games. But, Alabama and Ohio State, who were my preseason national championship, they rolled. They looked incredible. I think that Ohio State's going to continuously beat up on I think the Big Ten's weak, man. I really do. I think there's 3 good teams in the Big Ten. I think it's Michigan. I think it's Ohio State and Penn State. Other than that, I don't think there's anybody that's good in the Big Ten at all.
So Minnesota, we got to see what Minnesota is.
Yeah, Minnesota is the other one that you can, Muhammad Abraham. He is an absolute monster, man. Stopping the run game with him, I think that he'll allow them to stay in a lot more games. I think it's very obvious that Minnesota could be the dark horse to come out of the other half of the Big Ten, but there's not really many.
It's not even that dark anymore.
I was going to say I don't think it's that much of a dark horse.
I think
they were dark horse before the season started.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I will say though, Gene, you talked about the big dogs rolling. The number 1 team in the country did not roll on Saturday against those Kent State Golden Flashes. That's for sure. That was a game that was, I never thought that Kent had a chance of winning that game just because I know how that Kent team is. They weren't going to go beat Georgia, but it was definitely entertaining to watch. I wasn't expecting them to score the most points on Georgia so far this season. I wasn't expecting them to put out, 22 points and turn over Stetson Bennett and just have that. They had the Georgia defense gassed. They were just running up and down the field on them, literally. And I was surprised by that. That Kent doesn't have that great of a running game, but they were finding ways to be effective there.
They were. Listen, and I don't want to say Georgia didn't really get up for the game. It was kind of like a walkthrough, but it was a walkthrough. It's what it was for Georgia. But give Kent State all their roses, man. Kent State's made a lot of money playing some big time schools this year, and good for them. But with that being said, I think there's no doubt there's 3 teams that separate themselves, the best 3 teams in the country, and Michigan would be 4th. It's Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State. They're the best 3, and then Michigan's 4. And it would be a crime for one of those teams not to make the college football playoff. And I'm almost sure that one of them won't, if not 2 of them won't, because the way things are set up. But there's no doubt about it, the best 4 teams in the country are those 4.
That's true. But right now, I mean, there's so many undefeated teams still left on the board. OK State's still undefeated, and I don't expect them to run the table in the Big 12, but that's a possibility. Clemson and NC State, both of them are so far undefeated. I know they play each other, but one of them are going to leave this week undefeated. And if they run the rest of the table, that's, something you got to keep in mind.
The good part of it is you're starting to get into, for lack of a better term, you're starting to get into eliminator games now. Cottrell just mentioned, 2 of them. Whoever loses NC State, Clemson this week, I don't want to say their season's over, but it's kind of over. If Clemson would win, NC State would need them to lose twice, and NC State to run the board to get back into it. It's if we're gonna go on the assumption that we go chalk all the way through, you would have those 3 teams, and then there's going to be that's where it's going to get interesting. Who is going to be the best 1-loss team in the country? If you get a Big 12 or a Pac-12, champion with 1 loss, they're probably going to get in. I just don't know if you're going to have that. USC obviously has a good shot. Washington's looking way better than everybody thought they were going to be. Utah's sitting there with 1 loss, and USC has to go there. The Big 12 is going to be a mess. We joke about it all the time, but it's the truth. Oklahoma State goes to Baylor this week. Oklahoma got upset last week, and they go right back out. I think they're in TCU, not the easiest game in the world. Texas already has 2 losses. The Big 12 is a disaster already. So it's going to be – I will say this, the playoff rankings, once they start in a couple weeks, I think there's going to be probably dramatic changes every week until we get towards the end of the season.
So let's get into this week then. Let's get into the games this week. We can start with a few different ones. I say we start out west and run our way east, Washington, UCLA. Washington at UCLA. I'm picking this game. This is one of my picks this week, so I'll keep it brief. I think this will be a very good football game. I'm looking forward to it. But guys, give me your picks on this one. Cottrell, start us off.
I'm picking it as well.
Oh, really?
Wow.
We might be on the opposite side. You never know.
I feel like you guys probably are, but I think this is going to be a tight game. Washington traveling to UCLA. Obviously, they're both West Coast, so it's not too far. But I do think Chip Kelly has got those guys ready to go, and I think this is going to be a tight game. Ultimately, though, I got to go with the quarterback that I trust more, and that's Michael Penix Jr. UCLA, they have a great running attack with Zach Charbonnet from the Michigan transfer, and he's been special all season. He's a big part of why they're 4-0 already. But I'm rolling Washington in this one. I think it's tight. I think it comes down to the end. I go 31-30 on a walk-off field goal.
Okay. Bill, you want to give any thoughts on it, or do you want to talk about more during your pick 'em?
I'll give you a couple of things. I agree. I think it's a close game. I think one thing to look at, I think Washington's played a dramatically harder schedule so far. They're going to go on the road. UCLA had like 30,000 people show up for the last game. They have not played anybody over 121 on S&P, index yet, which pretty much means they've played even a lesser schedule than Michigan has, to put it in perspective for you. This is a big jump. This is a big jump for UCLA in talent-wise and quality of a football team. I'll get into a little bit more of it, when we pick it. But I still think it's a good game. But it's again, it's I feel pretty strongly on it.
Well, I feel pretty strongly on it also. I picked it also. So I guess we'll move on and we'll kind of get into it a little bit more when we pick the game. But next game on the docket, just keep it simple. Let's go with Kentucky Ole Miss. Kentucky Ole Miss is, this game really wrapped. All right. So, like, I'll tell you right now, remember I gave you a trap game last week with Kansas City, Indianapolis, and the NFL? This to me is a trap game in college football. I looked at the spread and I was baffled. Kentucky's a better football team. They're the way better football team. And they're 7-point dogs at Ole Miss. I think that's nuts. I don't know how to pick this. If I told you I think Kentucky wins, it would be going against my gambling instincts. I think the spread tells you Ole Miss is going to win and cover. You could look at where the money's at. You could look at physically with my eyes, I think Kentucky's the better football team. But as far as what I know, as far as spreads and things of that nature, I got to trust my gut. I'll go Ole Miss by more than 7.
I'm picking this one too. So,
oh boy. I mean, I'll go here then. Gene, I'm with you. I'm going with the quarterback that I trust more, and right now that's Jackson Dart. You talk about Will Levis, and I know he's getting a lot of national attention. And once the Wildcats start winning, it's really interesting how people hop aboard that bandwagon. A few years back when they had Benny Snell and they started off the season like 6-0, and it was like, oh, Benny Snell for Heisman, and can the Wildcats be true contenders? I said it a couple weeks ago when Kentucky was going up against Florida. I don't think this Kentucky team is legit. And granted, beat Florida, that's a good win. I think it also helped that Florida was turning the ball over a ton in that game. And I don't think that's going to be the case here. Jackson Dart, I think he'll take care of the ball. And I think the Rebels, they get the win over Kentucky.
I think Will Levis has looked great. I think he looked really good versus Florida. You could trust Jackson Dart more than you trust Will Levis, but I just don't understand that spread. Like the spread just looks so funky to me, so weird. And where the money's pouring in on Kentucky +7, it just still seems to be creeping up. I just can't stand this. Like I don't know. I don't understand why. I guess they know better than I do. And this is one of those ones where my heart tells me and my eyes tell me that Kentucky should win the football game, that they should be favored. But Vegas is telling me Ole Miss is going to cover. So that's kind of where I'm at.
With that said, where are you going?
I told you I'm gonna pick Ole Miss by over 7 points, just because that's like I trust Vegas more than I trust my own eyes sometimes. Just giving my 2
Fair
cents.
enough.
And Bill's picking it, so hopefully he's not picking Bama and Arkansas, so we can get a little bit of a breakdown. I almost picked this game because I really think that Arkansas is going to keep this game close. I do. I believe it. 17.5 is too much. I watched Arkansas last week, and for the first quarter versus Texas A&M, they looked like world beaters. And I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to Texas A&M, but it was like a really bad turnover by KJ Jefferson. KJ Jefferson? I said it right.
Yes.
And really bad turnover, like diving over the pile at the 2.5-yard line, which made no friggin' sense. A fumble return for a touchdown just altered the course of that game. A&M to me, I picked A&M last week, right? I didn't come out of that game thinking A&M was the better team than Arkansas. I just didn't. What are your thoughts?
No, I don't disagree with anything you said. And the other thing is, at the end of the game, they still had a shot to win it. The kid missed the chip shot off the very top of the upright. And if he makes that, they're still winning the game. I think they outplayed A&M for most of the game, to be quite honest with you. And again, I think Texas A&M is on the short list for being, one of the biggest disappointments this year. They've already lost. They lost to, a small Appalachian State school, and they haven't looked good. You can't watch them play and tell me they play any type of football that instills, a huge amount of confidence that they're going to win a bunch of SEC games or hang around the SEC West. I just don't see it. They struggle. They're just way too much struggling to move the ball. Their defense keeps them in games, but they are offensively challenged. And Jimbo is not figured it out yet. He's been there for a couple of years, and he can't find a quarterback. So I agree with you, Gina. I think I still came out of that game with more confidence in Arkansas than I did Texas A&M, to be quite honest.
Cottrell?
I'm kind of on the opposite side of you guys. I do think Arkansas, they did look like a good football team, but I think Alabama has already shown kind of chinks in their armor, and I think Nick Saban is going to have them ready for this game. I know they have to travel to Arkansas, but I think going into it, he's going to find a way to contain KJ Jefferson and make him throw from the pocket, and I think he's capable of doing that. But I also believe that when you make that Arkansas team more one-dimensional, they're going to struggle. And I think Bama's going to get up early, and there's going to be a lot of come from behind ball from that Arkansas team. And I think it gets ugly. I actually think Bama covers that. I believe the spread was at 17.5. I think they covered that. I think they won by 20 plus.
I'll go Bama by 10 in this one. I think they win. I don't think they win big. I don't think they have the wide receivers to really just destroy teams like they did in the years past. I just don't. Vanderbilt's awful. Like, just to be clear. But a team like Texas, I don't see the Arkansas being much worse than Texas. I really don't. And I think they keep it close. I think Bama wins, but only wins by 10.
But the thing you kind of got to keep in mind with that, though, is that it's a big matchups thing. So Georgia, it's not that Arkansas is better than Texas or, who's better there, but you saw Georgia got up for that Oregon game and they beat the snot out of them. And this Kent game, they won by 17 points. Kent's not a better football team than Oregon. It's just when you go into a game with certain expectations, this is so far the biggest game on Bama's schedule, with it being ranked v ranked, and it's an SEC matchup, and they're going on the road, and we already saw the chinks in their armor. I think all that going into it, I think these kids now know, hey, we're a beatable football team, and if we don't go out with our best foot forward in every game, we're going to lose. So I think that was the perfect wake up call for them. And I think Saban's going to have them ready to go.
I get it. I would say on the other flip of the coin, though, I mean, you could say the same thing about Arkansas. I mean, they were a fluky kick away from beating A&M on the road, and they're going to be home. I mean, that place is going to be jumping on Saturday. They're going to be up for that game. They know they can't lose back-to-back SEC games. I think you're going to get your best effort from Arkansas. I really do. Gene kind of made a point with the Texas thing. We're overlooking the fact, too. If Quinn doesn't get hurt, Alabama probably doesn't even leave there with a win. They don't have their line hasn't played well, and they don't have, as good as Bryce Young is, they don't have the explosiveness down the field like they've had the last 3 years with just that myriad of wideouts that just keep coming through that school. They're not there yet. They're just not. I mean, could they be there this week? I don't know. I'm sure they're working on it, but they haven't shown that to me yet. So, I am picking this for something else. So I'm going to leave it there. But I think it's a good football game. I don't see a blowout. No, I don't.
All right. Well, let's get to the game of the week then. Game of the week: NC State at Clemson. That's the game of the week. 10 versus 5. Cottrell, to give you credit, because we ragged on you as much as possible in the beginning of the year when NC State did not look great. And they've looked better every single week in this season. I think they have what it takes to beat Clemson. I do. It really just depends on if they can move the ball versus Clemson's defense. Wake Forest just did. And you're very, very high on NC State offensively. So hopefully that could happen, because I'm not, for whatever reason, I'm just not a big fan of Clemson this year. Just don't like the way they look. And I'm picking NC State in the upset this one. I think NC State gets it done. I think they win the game by 3. I think what essentially happened is Clemson got out of Dodge versus Wake Forest, and they're going to walk right. They almost have that exhale, and they're going to walk right into another buzzsaw. I see NC State winning this one.
I mean,
even though I picked Clemson in the playoff too. I picked Clemson in the college football playoff, but I'm kind of pulling that back. I'm picking NC State.
I think for me, I mean, we've talked about it before, and we've seen it happen time after time, especially with, we talk about even the NFL level it happens, but it especially happens in the college level with kids. You have that huge, like Gene said, I don't want to call it a letdown because they won, but you have that oh shit moment, and then you get out of there with a win. And like Gene said, you kind of come home and you're like, whew. And now all of a sudden you got to ratchet back up for what essentially is a better football team than you just played. Clemson's a little banged up. NC State's coming in, exactly like Gene said. They didn't start out the year looking great. They quite honestly probably should have lost against East Carolina. But they've looked better every week. The defense is still playing good. The defense is what won them the East Carolina game. And the offense is starting to click a little bit. North Carolina State's defense is miles ahead of what Wake Forest is. So I do not think Clemson's going to move the ball anywhere near as well against NC State as they did this past weekend. And the matchup of the game is Gene nailed it right on the head, is can NC State move the ball against Clemson? If they can, I think Clemson's in a lot of trouble.
Control?
I agree with everything both of you guys have already said. I do, real quick, just to go back to that Clemson Wake Forest game, I want to give DJ a ton of credit. I think that was his second best game as a Tiger so far, outside of his performance against Notre Dame when he came in for Trevor. But I will also say that Wake Forest, they dropped the ball in that game. Their head coach was super aggressive. They were calling plays down the field. They're taking their shots on that Clemson defense, and they were having their way. Sam Hartman was hitting on all cylinders. And once the game got late and it got into crunch time, they got more conservative and started running the ball, and ultimately that was their downfall. So I think NC State can learn from that. Seeing that on film, as good as that Clemson defense is, they can be tested and they can be brought to the muddy waters, and you could do some damage on them. So I do think that NC State has what it takes to win this game. Their head coach just has to be aggressive. Let Devin Leary go out there and go win you a football game and put you in the driver's seat of winning the ACC and potentially making the college football playoff. I know you have to travel to Clemson, but this isn't the Clemson of years past. This is a very beatable Clemson team, and NC State has all the horsepower to do it. So I'm expecting an NC State win, and they would make me look a lot better towards season's end with the win here. So
I got just one last question this game before we get into our pick'em. Devin Leary or Sam Hartman?
I think Sam Hartman's a better.
Who would you rather have at your quarterback, Devin Leary or Sam Hartman?
I'd probably go Sam Hartman, to be honest. From what I've seen so far, it might be, just from what I've seen lately. But that Clemson game, it really showed me everything I needed to see from Sam. He was game. Like, he wasn't afraid of anybody. He was taking his shots. He didn't care if his kids were going up against 5-star kids on the outside. He was throwing the ball and putting it on the money.
Cottrell just said exactly how I was going to describe him. Sam Hartman's a gamer, and I'll go to battle with a gamer any day. I think Devin Leary's problem sometimes almost is he's almost too timid. He's almost too cautious. And Gene, you mentioned that, or I think Cottrell just did. They need to do that. They need to let him loose, and if he makes a mistake, he makes a mistake. But I think his
you're not going to beat Clemson's defense playing college.
Correct.
Not.
You got to let it rip. You get one shot at it. You go in there. If you beat him, you beat him. If not, you regroup for next week. But you're not going to go to Clemson and beat them throwing 5-yard outs all game. It's not. You're not going to beat them.
The other thing too, Bill, you kind of talked about it when you brought it up. NC State's defense is better than what Wake Forest defense is, and Wake Forest was there on certain like deep shots that DJ took. But I mean, it took DJ's second best game as a Tiger to go to Wake Forest and win. I don't know if you're going to see that out of DJ again. DJ hasn't, in his years of starting quarterback, he hasn't put together those back-to-back games where he looks like the 5-star kid that was brought in. So if you don't get your best shot from DJ and you give everything you got, this is a very winnable game.
I agree.
All right, so let's get into our pick'em then. I'll pick the order this week. No, Control, you pick the order.
Yeah, I'm probably the leader in the clubhouse after those 27 points. My golden flashes got me.
I think you are. You can pick it.
I'll go first.
You walked right into pick'em, Kyle.
I'll go first. I'll have Gene go second, and Bill, you could end us off here. Just because me not going last proved to be pretty helpful for me last week, so we're not going to jinx that. But I like the dogs this week, man. Michigan State's a 7.5-point dog at Maryland. I get it. Maryland just had a really good game against that Wolverines team. Michigan State hasn't looked impressive. We saw them get, handled by Washington. But listen, I think State is a team that defensively they can handle baby Tua, Talia Tagovailoa in Maryland. And I like State to go to Maryland and get the win. But give me the 7.5, and I'm very happy with it. The other dog I like this week, I know they just came off of a loss to Clemson. Huge game. Wake Forest plus 6.5 going to Florida State. You want to talk about who Florida State has played so far? Be my guest. They're undefeated right now. I'm not taking anything away from them. I think if you look at this game, Wake Forest is just a better football team than what Florida State is, and you see that based on the rankings. So the rankings wouldn't go out and have Wake Forest ahead of Florida State if the coaches and the AP didn't think they were the better football team. But some reason they're still getting the 6.5 points here. So I like Wake Forest to go in and actually win that game as well. But of course, I'll take the 6.5. And then I like the over 39.5 NC State at Clemson. I think if NC State wants to win this game, they got to score points. And obviously, if Clemson wants to stay in the game, they're going to have to score points too. I think this is a game that easily can end up 24-21, something like that. But I think this game has all the makings to go over 39.5. And then my super dog this week, don't love them to win, but I think they absolutely can cover, would be Georgia Tech plus 22.5 at Pitt. I think they're going to be a competitive team I know they just fired their head coach and their AD. Usually when that happens, you get a little bit of a spark in the locker room. Players are playing for each other. And I think they could go to Pitt and cover that 22.5 point spread. But I think Pitt is ultimately going to be too much, and Pitt's still going to get the win.
Didn't work for Nebraska. Tell you, I agree with Gene. I'll let Gene take it because he said it first. The second one, I was thinking about picking, and the more I dove into it, didn't like it at all.
It's a trap.
And the first game, I'm telling you, Maryland's going to win that game by double digits. Maryland is a better football team than people think, and Michigan State has done nothing but disappointing this year. Mel Tucker is
that spread tells me everything I need to know. They tried to get you on the hook. I think State goes to Maryland, and I think Maryland gave everything they had last week. And I know they'll be game for the Michigan State game this week, but Mel will have them ready.
Maryland does things well that helps you win football games. I don't think Michigan State's going to be able to get any pressure on baby Tua.
I'll tell you right now, that Florida State game is a trap, man. Florida State's covering that 7. It's 7 now. And more money's on Wake Forest, and it's moving towards Florida State. When you see this reverse line movement, my eyes get big. And it happens less in college than in pro football because there's so many games to bet on. And so much less money. And I understand that. But, when you have ranked versus ranked teams and you see that stuff, look, I got a few for you this week. I've done a lot of research, man. I'm getting real into this pick'em season. I've been on fire. I've been on fire college football. I've been on fire pro. 3-0 last week. I won't take credit for my Indianapolis Colts covering. That doesn't count. 3-0 NFL, 3-1 NCAA. Here we go. I got Mississippi State minus 3.5 over at A&M. A&M gets that escape victory. Got to go on the road. Got to go play at Mississippi State. Mississippi State's got a good defense too, and A&M's offense is not good. I'll take Mississippi State minus 3.5. I don't care about the hook. Laid at 3.5. They win the game by 10. UCLA plus 2.5. Cottrell, I told you about this before. The 2.5 and 3.5. When it's 2.5, take the 2.5. When it's 3.5, lay the 3.5. I got UCLA in this one, man. Washington's looked really good, but they got to go on the road. They got to go play at a 35,000 arena, play against UCLA at UCLA, and they're going to lose. They're going to lose. UCLA is going to win the game. Chip belly, whatever you want to do. The run game, they're going to win the football game. I got UCLA. My best pick. This is a complete analytics system-driven pick. I've done a ton of research on this. I love this as like a 5-star play. Florida Atlantic -3.5 over the Mean Green of North Texas. Florida Atlantic traveling to North Texas, they are a way better football program. Florida Atlantic by 1 billion. Kidding. And for my super dog this week, I got Boston College +15.5 at home versus Louisville. I think I might pick up 22 points on this one. I think Boston College wins the game outright, let alone just covering the 15.5. But I'll take the 15.5 for the super dog special. Boston College. Shall we?
All right. So the first one I'm going to go with, we talked about most of these already. I'm picking pretty much all the games we highlighted this week, which is crazy. I'm taking Kentucky +6.5 at Ole Miss. Ole Miss, again, with Dart, offense is looking great. They have the same issue they have last year. They can't stop anybody. They're giving up over 450 yards total offense to everybody they play. Kentucky's going to come to town with a balanced attack. Here's the key for me. Kentucky is most likely getting their star running back, Chris Rodriguez, back. He looks like he's healthy. He looks like he's going to suit up and play. If he's on the field, he's a difference maker. I think they're going to be able to control the clock. I don't think Ole Miss is going to get the ball enough to really pull away. If this was a bigger spread, I wish it was. I'd pick it for the super dog because I think Kentucky wins the game outright, but I'll take the 6.5 on the road. The second game, I'm going against Gene. I think Washington goes into UCLA. The part that you neglected to mention there, Gene, is the 30,000 fans is only because they can't fill the Rose Bowl halfway. That's where UCLA plays their home games. They can't get anybody to show up. Somebody believes in the team yet. So I'm going to take Washington. I mentioned it a little bit in the preview. They haven't played anybody in the top 120 yet in the country. Washington is sitting inside the top 24 right now by S&P. Huge jump in competition for them. They've struggled to put lesser teams away. I think they hang in the game. Zach Charbonnet, again, big fan of him. Loved him when Michigan got him. He is very good. They've struggled to throw the ball with any kind of consistency this year. Michael Penix looks like the Michael Penix that almost beat Ohio State 2 years ago. He's healthy again. He's back. Washington's on a roll right now. That is a team playing confidence. They have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because nobody talked about them in the preseason. Nobody picked them to win anything. Nobody picked them to go to a big bowl game. Nothing. Playing with confidence. Washington goes in the Rose Bowl, gets a big win over fraud Chip Kelly. The last game I'm going to pick is – what is my last pick? I'm taking NC State at Clemson. I'm taking the 6.5 gladly. We kind of, we all agreed on it. I think Clemson's going to struggle. I think the turnaround after a huge game like that, they're a little bit banged up. NC State's going to come in kind of licking their chops, knowing they have an opportunity after watching what Wake Forest did to them. And I think the ball's going to be in Devin Leary's hands. I truly believe that. I think Cottrell made a great point with DJ's consistency. He came onto the scene, 2 years ago with that game in Notre Dame, went to Notre Dame and won. And then he didn't play a good game for about a year and a half. And now he played his heart out last week. If I had to bet, I bet he doesn't turn around and have another performance like that against a way better defense. I love that point that Cottrell made. I haven't seen it, and I haven't seen enough to believe that he's capable of doing it back-to-back weeks yet because he simply has it. So I will take NC State and that defense to go in Clemson and keep that game close. My super dog, talked about this game too. I'm taking Arkansas at home. I think they keep the game close. I think KJ makes enough plays, rebounds a little bit. I think they're going to be able to run the ball on Alabama a little bit. I don't think they're going to go nuts and break off 70-yard runs. I think they can have enough success on the ground to chew some clock, keep that game close. Probably don't win it. Probably maybe never even threaten it. But it's kind of like what Gene said. I think it's like a 10-point game. I'll take some bonus points there. Get back on track. I finally had a bad weekend. I said it last week. I knew this was going to happen. It was going to tighten up, and here we are. So I'm happy about it.
Doesn't happen often.
Listen.
You absolutely kicked the crap out of us starting the season, but
the best part is, dude, it's if you look at what we are as a show, it's incredible through 3 weeks of the season. So I have a couple people that listen to me, Cottrell, even listen to you, and bet picks and made a lot of money.
Even listen to me.
Listen.
I'm just kidding.
You just got off college football probation, so you're doing good. Keep doing your thing. You're doing good, and we got to catch up in NFL. That's your area. So, like I said, I'm more happy. I'm more happy that the show is just destroying it. I mean, if I will try to get it done tomorrow, but if you look at the numbers overall as a show, our percentages are nuts. So,
I'm just happy that Gene's a college football fan now because
you should have heard him last
2020.
night. You should have heard him last
2020,
night.
he was a different animal. We
were sitting there after a game, and he's like, I'm so happy. I'm so happy I became a college football fan. He's like, it's amazing. It's great. It's so good.
If I was a Penn State fan, for about Gene's age, I probably wouldn't be too much of a fan.
I'm gonna tell you something right now. My love for college football completely dropped off after the Joe Paterno saga.
That's what I was getting at.
Completely dropped off. Like I tried loving. I tried getting into Al Golden and the golden years down in Temple, and then he was gone, and I lost my love of the sport after that whole fiasco.
I can see that.
By the way, PD, I'm gonna make something very clear. Let me say something on air. And
don't do this. Don't do this.
I'm gonna do this. Listen, you guys kicked our ass last night, and you were disrespectful about it. Switching pitchers every inning, playing you at shortstop. I'm gonna tell you something right now. We play you opening game Saturday morning, and we're gonna kick your ass. And I want you to understand that. I'm gonna say that shit right now, and I want you to hear it, and you can share it with your whole goddamn team. We're gonna kick your ass Saturday morning.
Hi, Tiny. Thank you. I'm not getting involved in this because I'm not playing Saturday.
You don't need to. All right, so let's move into NFL, man. Let's move into NFL. I'm ready for some NFL action. So we got a lot to get into. First, let's talk about what just happened this past week. There's two teams undefeated. Two. The Miami Dolphins, who beat the Buffalo Bills, and the Philadelphia Eagles. They're the last. If you had the Eagles and Dolphins as your last two undefeated teams this season, and it was week 3, week 4, you win. You win the award.
Yeah, you're probably not working anymore.
I was telling you before the show.
So you're probably not working anymore.
I was going to say, I was telling you before the show, it's just so disheartening that there should be a third team there, but they somehow to do what 2,000 other teams hadn't done in a game.
Yawn.
So disheartening. But I'm happy you guys are there though. I feel like I'm turning into I'm not going to say a fan, but I'm rooting for you guys to be successful. I'll say that.
We root. Why would you not be a fan? We root for you to be successful. When this show is good, if the Eagles and Browns are both successful, that makes the show a lot better. If our teams are doing better,
you guys aren't Browns fans. Like, of course you're gonna root for them because I'm a fan of them. But
I'll tell you right now, I lost a lot of Browns fandom. I was rooting for the Browns until the whole thing with Deshaun Watson and everything. I didn't like that. I'm serious.
You got me into it last year. You got me that we got that Baker Mayfield jersey. I started to I'd watch the Eagles every Sunday. I'd be like, all right, what's Cleveland doing? Like, got into it, kind of got on the Baker board, and then man,
number 32 in total QBR right now. Hey,
it don't matter.
I'm glad we got rid of him, but
there's always a right way, wrong way to do things.
Just wanted to shout him out. My man John Evans checking in from Relationships 101. They're coming back October 25th. You might see a guest appearance from Gene Walzak on the couch in Relationships 101. Just shouting my man out. Love me some John Evans. What's up, Key? And Petey, you're a Gold Glove shortstop. Great double play. We'll see. Play shortstop Sunday. Play shortstop Saturday morning. I dare you to. All right. So let's move. I'm impressed with what Miami did winning that game versus Buffalo. You know what I found out recently? This is a crazy stat. I mean, I knew they weren't great when the game was close. Do you know Buffalo hasn't won a close game in 2 years?
Yep.
That's wild to me. They're very good at blowing teams out, but every time they're in a close game down the stretch, Josh Allen kind of chokes. That throw he made on 4th down, the double clutch, throw it in the dirt, was awful. And
then Yeah, I mean, he still had a shot at the end after the butt punt, and then he pulled a freaking Dak and ran out of time. I mean, and I'm sure everybody that's watching saw what's his face freak out in the booth. That was fantastic. You know, I wanted Buffalo to win the game. I mean, I love Josh Allen, but that was all. It was all entertaining. It was great, but I saw the same stat you did, Gene. They're like, you know, they're 0 last 9 in like one possession games with 2 minutes to go. Like crazy stats for somebody. You know, you would think Josh Allen would have one, you know, game-winning drive somewhere, and he doesn't. That's just wild to me.
I think we ignore it because we've seen how good he was at the end of the Kansas City game, and we're just like, that was unbelievably clutch. But they lost that game. They didn't deserve to lose that game. He didn't deserve to lose that game.
I was saying, and you're not putting that game on him. I think it would be interesting to look at how many of the games ended like the Miami game did, where, I mean, you can kind of lay it at his feet, and how many of the games were like the Kansas City game where they were only in the game because of him. That would be an interesting breakdown to see for me. But, I mean, both, you know, really good points.
I'm giving you guys one chance. It's week 4. I'm going to give you guys one chance to remove your pick of the Chargers because they're done. They're done. Remove them from the Super Bowl. You can put the Chiefs back in there. Patrick Mahomes will not be upset. You can put the Buffalo Bills in there if you like, but the Chargers are done. They're done. Their coach stinks. Rashawn Slater's out for the year. Their coach is awful. Let me just remind you, their coach is terrible.
Okay, I always
They're
forget
injured all over the place.
You hate Staley. I always forget about that.
Bro, Brandon Staley stinks. Do you
Probably
see what
should
he
talk
did last
about,
year versus the Raiders? Cliff Kingsbury and Brandon Staley are 2 of the worst coaches
There
in
it
all
is.
the NFL.
What he
It's the
did last
truth.
year versus the Raiders. What do you mean?
Blessed.
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean? Well, they won
Like
the game?
What specific? Like the timeout?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Timeout was bad.
I mean, it was, but I mean, if it worked, then it's a whole
They
different.
have literally the Monstars on that team.
I mean, to
That
be
team
fair
is
though,
loaded.
guys have been out all season. Keenan Allen hasn't. He was just missed last week. J.C. Jackson has only played 1 game so far. Like they haven't played together. I know Slater's hurt now, but
they put Bosa on fucking IL today too. So I mean, he's out. They're saying he's
4
probably,
weeks.
Yeah, they're saying they expect him to be back at some point in the season, but it sounded like he's going to miss way more than 4. So they're talking about
Not just the
surgery.
defense, Petey. It's not just the defense. They scored 10 points versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville beat the shit out of them.
Herbert shouldn't
call that like it is. What?
Yeah,
Herbert shouldn't have played. That's another bad coaching decision.
But that's not on Herbert.
Let them rally behind your backup quarterback.
Once the doctors clear him, he's got to play him.
That's the problem. Nah, dude. If he's medically cleared and he walks into the office and says I'm playing, he's playing. Correct.
Yep. That's the quickest way to get fired. Your owner's going to be like, we had Justin Herbert on the bench and he was eligible to play and you guys lost by 28. What the hell's going on?
Can I ask you guys a question?
He's good enough now that he's one of the 10 or 11 quarterbacks that can do that, and he's earned it, and it's the truth. If you go out and lose that game by a field goal, and then the GM or owner finds out that Herbert wanted to play, and you put him there, like Cottrell's right. That's how you're on the fast track to losing your job.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
I want you to tell me one position on the entire football field that Jacksonville is better than Los Angeles. The talent-wise. I'm not talking about, give Doug Peterson his credit. There's not one quarterback edge to Los Angeles, running back edge to Los Angeles, wide receiver edge to Los Angeles, offensive line edge to Los Angeles, defense edge to Los Angeles. Every single position on the football field, Los Angeles is better, and they were home, and they were coming off a loss, and they had more rest, and Jacksonville went in there and kicked the shit out of them.
They did.
Just call it like it is.
They did.
Doug Peterson's a much better coach than Brandon Staley.
I don't think that was ever up for debate, though. I just think that if Herbert says he wants to play, if Herbert says he wants to play, and the trainers say he's available to play, and he's not going to hurt anything further or anything like that, I just don't think that you cannot play him in that situation. Even if you don't want to.
Why would you not pull him in the fourth quarter? when you were down and the game was out
Now,
of reach.
see-
I mean, now
see,
that's a different argument.
That part I'll agree with you. After you started watching the game, you saw how he was. At that point, I'd probably sit him down.
That's a different argument.
But to say,
hey, Justin, you haven't prepared for this game all week. You haven't practiced all week. We're going to go with Chase this week. No, he didn't. He was limited in 2 practices, and he sat out the other 3.
But he knows the game plan, and he was still throwing.
Practice.
Yeah, it's not like he wasn't there all week. He knows the game plan, and then he's still doing the walkthroughs. He knows everything. I mean, it's not like they installed a new offense this year. Like it's nothing's different. And I will say he took his ejection. At the end of the week, he was throwing.
There's a difference. Like I would say, most likely, most people would take Justin Herbert at 75% than Chase Daniel at 100%. I understand it's a regular season game and it's early in the season, but like I said, if Herbert says he can play and the trainers clear him, you have to put him out there on the field. I know it looks horrible now because they still got blew out even with him out there, but I think he has to play there.
Okay, so let's take this a step further, all right? I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to change your pick due to injuries, and you guys have to give me an opportunity to change my pick due to injury. And then we can just No, seriously. I'm keeping Buffalo. That was my pick. I picked Buffalo over San Francisco, but their quarterback is out for the year. Right. So I'd like the opportunity to change that, and I'll give both of you guys the opportunity to take the Chargers out. Because the Chargers aren't going to go to Super Bowl, guys. They're not going. So who would be your AFC representative at the Super Bowl? You get your one mulligan. It's right here. Go.
Petey's right, too. Chase Daniel, I read an article about him the other day. That dude just made $42 million as a backup quarterback. Good for him.
Isn't as bad as what Sam Bradford did.
Good for you, sir.
At least Sam Bradford at a point was a starter.
Sam Bradford
was number one overall. I get it, but he was the number 1 pick, so you knew he was getting that huge first contract, which is an enormous part of what he made. To be a backup,
Chase Daniel is a very good guy in the quarterback room. He's like a glue guy,
bro. I'm not trashing him. I'm not trashing him by any means. I'm literally saying congratulations to make $42 million and have 3 starts in a 9-year career and make that much money. Good for you, sir. Good for you.
All right, so give me your AFC Super Bowl participant now.
It's hard for me not to go to Buffalo, so that's where I'm going.
Okay, I give you your reprieve. Cottrell, you're welcome. Go ahead.
I'll double down. That's fine.
What? You're staying with the Chargers?
I'll double down. I think once they get healthy, we'll see who they really are.
Okay. I'm going to tell you, I get my reprieve now, right? I get to change my quarterback that I picked is out for the season. We all seen why Jimmy Garoppolo isn't the goddamn starter. Most popular guy on the field is the backup quarterback. After a monsoon, we were going Trey Lance shouldn't be starting. Idiots that's saying that dumb shit. Jimmy Garoppolo showed you why on Sunday Night Football. I get my reprieve too. I'm changing my Super Bowl prediction. I have the Buffalo Bills still in the AFC, and coming out of the NFC, I have the Philadelphia Eagles.
I knew that.
I get to change. Oh, damn right, it was coming.
As soon as we started doing this, I knew it was coming.
The most complete team in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles. Only undefeated team left in the NFC. They're going to the Super Bowl. Listen.
You know what's funny? And I know, it's very in the moment. They're 3-0. Gene, we just had a conversation about how you were keeping everything Eagles, with the clear mind, and then you go on there and you say they're going to the Super Bowl.
It's a clear mind. I listen. What I've seen, Jonathan Gannon has made such improvements to the way he is formulating our defense, getting after the quarterback. And guess what, Cottrell? You want to hear something wild? In the look-ahead projections lines, the Eagles will be favored in every game for the rest of the season, as of right now. Obviously, if something happens, an injury or that changes. But as of right now, the Eagles are favored to win every game this season. They're not going to. There's going to be ups and downs in the NFL season. But that roster is constructed And I got to give Nick Sirianni his credit, man. Got to give him his credit.
I'm not saying that the Eagles have no shot at going to the Super Bowl or this is just a homer pick or anything like that. Although I do think it is partially homer,
It's
of course.
not.
But with that said, look, I was all over the Eagles preseason, just like you guys were. I said they won the NFC East. It wouldn't be close. They were the best team in that division. I have to keep in mind so far who they've played. Let me see them go up against a Bucks team or just someone who I think will be a playoff caliber team. And I know you guys have the Vikings in the playoffs, but I just want to see them against some tougher competition, see how they handle a little bit of adversity, see how Sirianni coaches in that kind of matchup, and then I'll be more on board. But with that said, I'm loving what I'm seeing out of them so far. I think they've had guys, most specifically Jalen Hurts, taking steps this year. We saw Devonta Smith looking like he could be a true number one, although he's the number 2 on the Eagles team. So I'll give you guys all the credit in the world, but let me see them face some adversity first before I say they're going to the Super Bowl.
That's fair. That's fair.
I don't want to say adversity. I want to see them play a better defense. Jalen is definitely strides ahead of where he was last year. I don't think that's even debatable. But they so far, you go by total defense, they've played the 30th, 27th, and 26th defenses so far. They're going to have to go through Tampa at some point. Dallas has a very good defense. But I mean, listen, you can only play who's in front of you every week, and they've done that. And they've done it convincingly. And there's not a whole lot of there's no other team really in the league that can say that right now. I'm not going to put them in the Super Bowl. I did have them as the 2 seed, before the year. So Sirianni is definitely has that team on board. He has the pulse of the locker room. I'm not going to double down on Gannon quite yet. We'll see. But to give him his roses, he's also, they have the 7th best defense in the league right now, pretty much by every metric. So if you would have told me that 3 weeks into the season before the season started, I would have told you were crazy. So, I got to give him his roses. He hasn't messed up so far. So long ways to go. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Long way to go. A lot of football left to be played. Got to stay healthy. We got to keep getting better. But if you're an Eagles fan, it's very hard not to just be ecstatic the way the football team is playing right now.
All right, so let's get into our previews this week then. We got some previews to go over. First game on the docket, Jags at Eagles. I think this game is easy, gentlemen. I think the Jaguars just won a game in Florida, 24-0 over Indy. Then they went to the West Coast and won a game over the Chargers, 38-10. And now they're going all the way back to the East Coast to play at Philadelphia. Dougie P's return, I got to give him all the credit in the world. And listen, if you're an Eagles fan and you don't give him a standing ovation, you're not an Eagles fan. Eagles win this game, though. It's not a good place for Jacksonville to come right now. Philadelphia is at home. They're staying home. They didn't travel far from Washington right back to Philadelphia. Good week of practice. Everyone healthy on the injury report. I like the Eagles in this one. I think the Eagles win this one 27-17.
I like the Eagles as well. Highlighted a couple things we just talked about them. To double down on Gene's point, if I was at the game and I heard anyone around me even do anything remotely but yell and cheer for Doug Peterson, I would throw a beer at them. Mainly because I don't drink beer, so I wouldn't give a shit. But he's the best coach in the history of the team. I don't care how you slice it. I don't care about the old homers. I'm going to throw me Dick Vermeil. I don't care. It's Doug Peterson. It's not close. That man deserves a standing ovation. He didn't really want to leave here, so don't forget that. That being said, we said it when they signed him. It was a great hire for Jacksonville. He's a great players coach. We saw firsthand how he galvanized that locker room and turned people around. We saw how he is with good young quarterbacks. We saw what he did with Carson his first couple of years. There's no doubt in my mind Trevor Lawrence wasn't going to be better this year, and you're already seeing it. He's looked great. He's looked like everything we thought he was going to be, and he's still improving. So, it's going to be a little bit of test. It's going to be a little bit of, Jacksonville almost kind of, mirrors the way we play offense. They're going to try to run the ball. And that's been one of the biggest differences this year. Nick Sirianni is finally committed to running the ball, and it's made everybody's life easier, especially Jalen Hurts. Miles Sanders is averaging 16 carries a game, which I've only been yelling for the last 24 months. And it's freeing up Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. Play action plus the threat of Jalen Hurts running. You can't stop all four. You got to pick your poison, and you got to sell out to do one of them. And you're playing behind one of the best offensive lines in the game. So that offense is humming. They're at home. I don't think there's any way those guys go out and let them, as much as they all love Doug Peterson, when that whistle blows, it's going to be nothing but business. There's no way they lose that game to him. None. I'm going to take it a step further. I have Eagles winning 31-17 over Jacksonville.
Sounds good.
I'll complete the sweep here. I also have the Eagles winning. I think the biggest thing in this game is going to be the matchups. The Jaguars, I know James Robinson is having a good start to his season coming off the torn Achilles, but outside of James Robinson, I don't think the Jags have a true weapon, a guy who I think can win their matchup. I know Christian Kirk's there. He's having a good start to the season. I know Zay Jones has been having that connection with Trevor, but those guys are going to be matched up with James Bradbury and Darius Slay, and I don't think those guys are going to win that matchup. So with that said, I think the Eagles are going to find ways to make it tough for Trevor Lawrence and just make him uncomfortable. The way that the Eagles offense has been humming so far early on, I think they're going to put up points, and you're going to have a young quarterback coming from behind chasing points. And I think that's going to lead to turnovers, especially when you got guys that can make plays. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I mentioned Bradbury, Slay already in the secondary. They're going to make plays on the ball and make them uncomfortable. So I like the Eagles to win this game as well. Spoil Dougie P's return.
So I do want to say this because I watched a lot of that Chargers-Jaguars game. We gave Travis Etienne a lot of shit for the first couple weeks. He didn't look like a professional running back. If you watch that game, it looked like he started getting his sea legs under him again, like he's knocking that ring rust off. Because that second half, he looked like Travis Etienne again. He looked really good.
He's starting to look more comfortable.
Way more comfortable. He was spitting off tackles. He looked strong. He ran over somebody in the secondary. I thought that was incredible. I think that the Jags have a couple more weapons than people give them credit for. I know Christian Kirk doesn't scare that many people. I know Zay Jones isn't that big of a threat. He's not Justin Jefferson. But don't sleep on them. And the one thing I will give the Jaguars a lot of credit for is they built that defensive line up. That makes that defense a lot better when you have Josh Allen and Trevon Walker's had a great first 3 games. Give him all the credit in the world because that front 4 is making the job of the back 7 a lot easier in coverage by getting pressure and stopping the run without having to blitz. I think they're number 1 against the run right now.
I'll kind of add on to that. I'm not saying that Christian Kirk and Zay Jones are just scrubs or anything like that. I just think that they're very much out. But if you had to rank Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, James Bradbury, and Darius Slay, the Eagles have number 1 and I know they different positions, obviously, but those two are clearly the better players at their positions. And I think that's a clear matchup win for the Eagles.
Agreed. They put the stats out. Did you hear this stat? This stat's ridiculous. When being guarded one-on-one, the lowest quarterback rating in the NFL for cornerbacks, Darius Slay is number 3 in the entire league, and James Bradbury is number 4. So that's special when you have the number 3 and number 4 cornerback when the quarterback's throwing their way. So, all right, let's move forward. Next game on the docket, we got the Buffalo Bills going to the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens coming off of a big win in New England. Closer game than it probably should have been. Buffalo coming a little bit off that letdown versus Miami. Sunday, the hurricane resemblance could be there. Could be signs of weather. Your thoughts on this game? Buffalo at Baltimore.
I think this is, depending on who ends up playing in the Kansas City Tampa Bay game, and that game's going to get moved, obviously, to anybody that is listening to Florida, stay safe. They're getting pounded. There's no football being played in in Florida this weekend. So that's going to go. I believe they're playing in Minnesota, if I heard that correctly.
That's their debating one.
Yeah. So Tampa Bay's still banged up. So for me, this is the game of the week for me. Josh Allen coming off a loss, going to Baltimore, always a tough place to play. If weather is a factor, I mean, I don't know who to me, it's an advantage for Baltimore. They run the ball better. Buffalo they always tease you, and they have like a week where Singletary has 15 carries for 70 yards, and you think they're gonna start running the ball and try to not get Josh Allen killed. And then last week, I think he had 7 carries for 13 yards. I mean, they just got to know where they just abandoned it. Baltimore got J.K. Dobbins back, and Lamar obviously runs. I think Baltimore's a little bit better to play a bad weather game in the rain. That is, they're just set up to run better. But then again, I mean, you look at it. I mean, who has a stronger arm than Josh Allen? Nobody. So, I mean, if anybody's gonna be able to throw the ball in bad conditions, it's gonna be Josh Allen, and they're used to playing in Buffalo. This is a tough game for me. It really is. I think coming off a loss, it almost makes me teeter towards Buffalo by a little bit, by like a field goal. But then I go right back to it. If you need to kick late in the game, who's going to make that kick? The guy resides on the Buffalo or on the Baltimore roster. So it's tough. It's going to be a really good game. It's exciting. I still think both teams are going to score regardless of the weather. Buffalo's still a little banged up on defense. They have both safeties out again this week. I believe Micah I think he's out for the year, if I recall.
He is.
And Pryor, I don't think is playing. Matt Milano's still out, I believe. So I mean, they're banged up. So if I had to pick a score, I would go Baltimore 26, Buffalo 23.
Control.
Bill, I think the end of what you were saying is why I think this matchup is a little bit easier for me. I'm going with Baltimore. I think Buffalo is just a little bit too banged up. We've seen how fast Lamar Jackson has started out the year so far, and it's funny when these quarterbacks are playing for their money, they play lights out and they try to go win MVP. So I do think the Ravens are going to be obviously the better rushing attack because of the weather and things like that. But I think Lamar would be able to throw the ball fine. And last week, Buffalo started their third and fourth strings at corner. They got their starting 2 safeties, most likely won't play. Obviously, we just said Mike is out for the season. And then with Milano being banged up as well, I mean, that defense, they're reeling right now. So I think this is a game where Baltimore catches them at the right time, and I think they get the big win against Buffalo.
So I'll address the points that I feel like you guys have missed here. You guys talk about Baltimore running the football versus Buffalo. It's not going to happen. Buffalo has 3 absolute monsters on that defensive line. And Von Miller, Ed Oliver, and Gregory Rousseau. Just call it like it is. You got first-round talent and monsters on that D-line. They stop the run. That's what they do. I don't think that the secondary issues that Buffalo has this week has anything to do. It really isn't a factor versus a team like Baltimore because none of those receivers really scare you. I like Bateman. Duvernay's had a nice little start to the season, but these aren't receivers that are going to light the world on fire. They're just not. You're not playing against Waddle and Hill. And by the way, they did a pretty good job against Tyreek Hill, even with the injuries that were happening. I like Buffalo in this game. I think they're the best team in football, and I'll continue to say it. Buffalo wins this one 27-20. And I think Josh Allen has that comeback game after he doesn't lose 2 in a row often. He's you could tell, and I love the Ken Dorsey. You guys see the video of Ken Dorsey throwing his laptop? Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. I love that. And it's apologizing. I don't want you to apologize to me. I look at that like I want that. Yeah. Give me that guy. Ken Dorsey.
He cares.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what I see. I think Buffalo comes into this game wanting to win better than knowing that Miami's 3-0. I think it'll help them, though, when you find out what happens Thursday night. But we'll get into that in a minute. But I think Buffalo wanting to win that game, and they go into Baltimore and they win it by 7.
My only counterpoint to the Buffalo Bills having the monsters up front, I think that's obvious. Like, I agree with you. Those guys are monsters. They stop the run very well. The only caveat kind of to that would be this matchup is a little bit different. Baltimore is they run the ball on the outsides. Obviously, you get a lot of read options, a lot of RPOs, and it's not going to just be we're going right up the A gap, trying to run at you, run through you kind of thing. You got to read your keys and things like that. Obviously, I think Von Miller, Ed Oliver, Greg Russo, those guys can do that. But I think this is a tougher challenge than just most, typical running attacks where it's inside zone, outside zone, when you got to account for, guards pulling on read options and things like that. So just got to keep your eyes more aware.
It's a good point. Control, it's a good point. I just think Buffalo's defensive line plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage, and not many defensive lines do that. So when you're running against them, you're more running on the gaps of hoping that, and they also run blitz more than any team in the NFL does. They run blitz 26% of the time, which is absurd.
It is.
They have trust in their defense, and if the Ravens win this football game, I don't think it'll be on the ground. And by the way, the MVP of the league right now is Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
Listen, the MVP of the league right now is Lamar Jackson. So I don't think that I wouldn't find it crazy if the MVP of the league right now goes nuts in the air and throws the ball and hits Rashad Bateman and Devin Duvernay and Mark Andrews this game, and they win the game through the air. I just don't think they're going to win the game on the ground. And I think Josh Allen can throw in any weather. He throws in snow. He threw in that blizzard when they played against the Patriots that one game. He could throw in anything. So I'm not worried about that. I think that they're well equipped to play in any amount of weather. So I'll take the Buffalo Bills. I love that expression. Rich people throw laptops. Poor people throw socks. Tiny Williams. All right, last game is apparently the game of the week, but not to you guys. But it's the game of the week to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They might not even have home field advantage for this one, playing against the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs coming off that loss at Indianapolis. The spread looked funky. I seen it coming. I appreciate you guys following on TikTok. I see a couple of you guys in the comments already. I appreciate that. But listen, Kansas City coming off a loss with their ability to put their foot on the throat of the AFC West, which is the most dangerous division in football, coming off that loss, playing against Tampa Bay, who is really banged up. And, after losing that game, they'll get Mike Evans back. They might get Chris Godwin back. They might get Julio Jones back. It looks like they'll be a little healthier coming back in the game. Then they're going to lose their home field advantage. They've been traveling all week. Tom Brady said it's no excuse. There's no excuses. I still don't think it matters. I think the Kansas City Chiefs win this one. I think they win it pretty handily. I got Chiefs 31, Buccaneers 20.
I'm not going to disagree because I think losing home field advantage is a big deal. Those guys also all live in Tampa Bay, which pretty much, for lack of a better term, took a direct hit today with the hurricane. Those guys probably all have houses and families and everything else that are, either destroyed or severely underwater right now. You could try to keep your head in football as much as you want. And Tom Brady, we've seen over the course of, his career, is probably better at that than maybe anybody ever. Doesn't mean the rest of the team is. The rest of the team doesn't have, $500 million in the bank, and they have different problems that Tom Brady does. Mike Evans will play, obviously, like you said. Godwin's still up in the air. Julio's still up in the air. I just think there's a lot of distractions for them. I think this week was a lot easier for Kansas City just to practice, and they're going to fly to Minneapolis now instead of Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's got a million other things going on. I agree that Tom fully believes in his heart that it's not an excuse, but I think at some point, being a human being and going through something like that it's just different than, it's a different week preparing for a game than it normally is. Neutral field. I will take Kansas City 34, Tampa Bay 23.
Cottrell, tell us something different.
I'm going to tell you something different because I'm on the other side here. I think I understand busy week, a lot of things going on. You could talk about the distractions, all that. I think when those things like that happen, you get a more motivated team. It's a let's go win this for the city, that kind of thing. You saw it with the Saints when Katrina happened. Obviously, Ian, hopefully, fingers crossed, prayers up that it's not as big as what Katrina was, but I think this Bucs team will be up for the challenge. You talked about them getting Mike Evans back. That's going to be a huge, huge get for them. You talked about Patrick Mahomes not losing 2 games in a row. Tom Brady just is coming off of a loss as well to the Packers team. So I think that Buccaneers defense, they're equipped to slow down what the Chiefs offense can do. And, I've seen this, obviously it's not matchup wise the exact same, but I've seen this Bucs team slow down a Chiefs team with more weapons in the past. Talk about their offensive line, things like that. But I've seen the Bucs come up to play against the Kansas City Chiefs on a neutral. It was in Tampa, but I've seen them come up to play, and I think that the Bucs will be ready. Leonard Fournette will be ready, and I think the Bucs escape with a win that they absolutely shouldn't have.
All right, so I do want to give you one point here. And I want to say it now, and I might come off like an asshole. I might come off wrong. Tom Brady hasn't looked good one game this season. Now, I think he'll eventually get it together late October, early November. But he didn't look good versus Dallas. They kicked a lot of field goals. Was that 19-3? He didn't look good versus New Orleans. They pulled away late after Mike Evans to fight. It was like 20-10. He didn't look good versus Green Bay. Tom Brady has not looked good this season. I think eventually they'll get it rolling. I don't think this is the week to do it. I think the Kansas City Chiefs still have that in there, that Super Bowl reminiscence in their head. I think Andy Reid's been ready for this game. And I think a part of the reason that Kansas City looks so flat, it was a little bit of a trap game as the last week when they played the Colts, because they've been looking for, this has been circled on the calendar. As soon as the schedule came out, we get to get our opportunity back at Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So,
well, I think part of it too, though, is we haven't seen really outside of the Cowboys game, we haven't seen that Bucs offense really at full strength yet.
I don't think you will this week either. Chris Godwin's still hurt.
I'm not saying you will.
I agree.
Still hurt.
I think a lot of that was, I don't think he looked bad necessarily the Dallas game. I know they kicked a lot of field goals, but I mean, he was moving the ball effectively. He just couldn't punch it into the end zone, which, I mean, that's not normal for a guy like Tom Brady. But I think Mike Evans coming back, I think Julio will play. I think he was game time last week, so an extra week off. I think he'll be ready to roll this week. Godwin, I would assume, sits at least one more week, but I know they just brought in Cole Beasley as well. I mean, I think this is as close as to what we'll see of a full offense of them since week 1, and I think Tom will look better. Plus, the Chiefs aren't world beaters defensively, so I think you can find your rhythm against the Chiefs defense. They've actually looked a lot
better defensively this year. You got to give Spags his credit. They've looked a lot better defensively.
Better and being good is two different things, though.
Tampa Bay's played 3 top 10 defenses so far. They haven't played a defense out of the top 10 yet. They played Green Bay, Dallas, and New Orleans. I mean, all 3 of them are top of the food chain defensively. So Kansas City's looked better. They're not in the same category as any of the 3 of them. So we'll see.
Okay, let's get into Pick'em, boys. I got the order this week, so we'll start with Bill, then Cottrell, and then me.
All righty. I'm going to start. I dread this pick already, but I'm just going to make it because it makes sense for me. I'm going to start down in Dallas. I'm going to take Dallas minus 3.5 at home over Washington. If you watched any game last week against the Eagles, it's a sprint to the finish to see who has a worse offensive line, either the Giants or Washington. So I think Dallas is going to wreak havoc again. I think Carson's going to get sacked a lot again. And I think Dallas will play that same conservative game. Looks like Michael Gallup is going to play this week. They'll have another wide out, another wide receiver 2 to put next to CeeDee Lamb, who they figured out how to get the ball to. Dallas is at home. I think they'll be able to run the ball against Washington as well. I think they control the game. I think they win somewhere somewhere like 26-17, 24-17 range, somewhere in there. They'll keep it simple with Cooper Rush again. I know there's people are saying there's a chance Dak plays this week. I don't think there's any shot he's playing this week. but I think they're going to wreak havoc. So I'll go with Dallas at the point, taking the points at home. I'm going Jacksonville at the Eagles. I'm going over 46.5. I think Jacksonville can cause enough issues defensively for us. They'll be able to move the ball and be able to score points. I don't think they're going to score a ton. I also think the Eagles are going to put up high 20s, maybe low 30s. I think that's enough to get it to the over 46.5. So I like the Eagles and the over there. The last game I'm taking the Rams at San Francisco. After the week 1 debacle, the Rams looked better each and every week. Stafford's starting to get a little bit more comfortable. They're starting to get Cam Akers going after that debacle week 1. He's played more the last 2 weeks, more and more snaps. He's still got Cooper Kupp. Defense is starting to shape into form a little bit. And San Fran, to Gene's point, did not look good last week. Did not look good at all. They looked a little bit lost with Jimmy G, which was surprising to me. I think they have – I don't want to say – they don't have to dumb down the offense. That's not the right word for it. They have to, they have to take a lot of things out that they could have run for Trey Lance that they just can't run for Jimmy G. And I think they're just, it shortens the playbook a little bit for Kyle Shanahan. So I will take the Rams on the road with the 2.5 points. I think the Rams probably win outright, but I'll take the 2.5.
All right, so Chalia, we're so against each other again, and that's okay. That's all right. I'll go over a few. So what I did something a little special for the listeners this week. Had a good week last week, so I'm going to give 4 picks away this week. And the reason I'm giving 4 picks away is I'm going to give a Thursday night, I'm going to give a London game, I'm going to give a Sunday, and I'm going to give a Monday.
Does
that make sense?
Which 3 are you counting?
I gotta pick 3 to count.
Yes.
All right, so I'll take the London game out, but that'll be a little bonus for the listeners. Okay.
Okay. Got it.
All right. I'm gonna start Thursday night. I love
you're going,
the Bengals.
You're going second.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I was so excited to go because I disagree with Chally. Go ahead, Kittrell.
I mean, if you want to go, you can. You can amend it. But
I was so excited to go against Chally because me and Chally are against each other.
But you think after 103 episodes, we'd have some manners, but I mean,
no manners.
No manners.
Yeah,
screw it. You talked about the London game, Gene. That is one of my picks. I'll take the Saints plus 3 now against the Vikings. I think that Saints team coming off of a loss, I think they're going to be ready to go. And we've seen that. I know Kirk Cousins is a different animal when he's not in prime time, but traveling across the pond, I think defensively the Saints are going to be up to play. And I think Jameis doesn't, as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, they should win that game. And you can turn it over once. You just can't have, 3 turnovers, 2 missed kicks and things like that and expect to win football games. And so I think they rebound from that pretty well and the Saints win that game. My second pick, I like the Cardinals plus 2 at the Panthers. I know the Panthers just came off of a win against the Saints last week, but like I just said, they had like 5-6 just weird things happen to them, and then it was still a closed ball game. And ultimately, Laviska Shenault, pulled off a 70-plus yard reception that put the game away. But I don't expect that to be the case this week. Baker Mayfield right now, as it sits, he's 32nd out of 32 quarterbacks in total QBR. He's not having a great season. They don't have the chemistry yet with those Panthers receivers. And Christian McCaffrey hasn't been the X factor that, I kind of expected him to be coming into this season. I think the Cardinals, you could talk about their woes that they've had so far this season. I just think they're the better football team, and I expect them to go into Carolina and win that football game. And then my last pick, it's a game that Bill touched on already. I do like the Rams to win that game against the 49ers, but I also like the under 42.5. I think that's a game that'll be lower scoring because if I'm the Niners, I would try to limit possessions. I don't want Jimmy G on the field a whole bunch, and I would find any possible way to not have Cooper Kupp beat us over the top for the quick touchdowns and things like that. So I think if the 49ers want to win this game, it's going to be a low-scoring game. So I'll take the under 42.5.
Okay. I'm against you on a couple too, but I'm not against it official picks wise. Just let me give you a couple where my insights are. I like Carolina to beat Arizona this week. I do. It's not one of my picks. I like Washington over Dallas this week. That's not one of my picks either. But I like both of those games as little side plays, little side pieces. And then for the London game, since it's not one of my official picks, I love the Saints in that game. I might as well consider that game prime time. It's prime time. The only team playing is that game. Kirk Cousins, just don't believe it. And I think that Saints defense gets after him. I think they put him on his ass often, early and often. So I like New Orleans in that game, but that won't be any of my official picks. Here's the official picks. Thursday night. I love the Bengals Thursday night. You know, the 3-0 Dolphins who just beat the Buffalo Bills, and they open up as 3-point dogs versus Cincinnati on Thursday night. What I find even more interesting is all the money, 70% of the money has been on Miami. And guess where the spread went? It went to -4. They added an extra point for Cincinnati. Tells me all I need to know. I think Joe Cool's back. I think Joe Burr, and I think that offensive line is starting to get their groove together after getting a nice win over the Jets. I think Cincinnati is in cruise control Thursday night. I don't think Tua is healthy. I think he's fighting a concussion, an ankle injury, a back injury, and I just don't think Miami moves the ball Thursday night, and I think Cincinnati wins that one rather comfy. For my second game, it can't happen forever. I think they're too good of a football team to have 0 wins. I'll take the Raiders. I think the Broncos stink. And let's talk about bad coaches in the NFL. Shalley nailed this one right on the head. Nathaniel Hackett stinks. And he said if you didn't get Aaron Rodgers there, that's a wasted hire because Nathaniel Hackett is awful. And Russell Wilson doesn't look good. They won 11-10, and their defense did the majority of that work on Sunday Night Football. I love the Raiders in that football game at home, needing their first win to beat the Broncos. I don't think the Broncos are going to move the ball, and I think Devontae Adams and Derek Carr start to cook. And on Monday Night Football, another one of those games. Yeah, you know who looks really terrible this year? And I don't care what the record says that they're 2-1. They look awful. It's the Rams. I think they look like trash. And I think one thing that looked really good about San Francisco is their defense. I think that defense is going to annihilate St. Louis. If you look at it through a different lens, okay? Kyle Shanahan has only lost one game to Sean McVay, and it was the NFC Championship game. And that game, they shouldn't have lost either. Jaquiski Tartt dropped the biggest cupcake of an interception ever. I think San Francisco's defense dominates. Matt Stafford needs to learn how to trust receivers that aren't Ben Skoranek, Tyler Higbee, and Cooper Kupp, if you catch what I'm saying. Throw the ball to Allen Robinson. It's got to happen. I'll take the 49ers on Monday Night Football to just pound Matt Stafford. That's a Matt Stafford 3-4 interception game. Just what it is. I like the 49ers to roll on Monday Night Football. Those are my picks.
Do you like the under 2 if the defense rolls?
Yes.
All right, good.
Yes, I do. I think the under is a good pick.
You feel better now?
I do. I do. I feel better.
I feel great. But we got some Mount Rushmores to go over. We don't have the cool graphics to go with it this week. But we're going to still go over them. We got Wisconsin versus New York 2. I got the list. I'll read them out to you. We'll go over them, and we can get some good conversation about these lists. Guys, when we first started doing this list, we said New York is going to be very tough to beat. I look at this list, and I think I know which way I'm going, and I don't think it's New York. But let's unveil it. Let's unveil it. Wisconsin first. We got the legendary scumbag quarterback from the Green Bay Packers, and I'm not talking about Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking about welfare stealing Brett Favre, scumbag. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, the better quarterback that plays in Green Bay, still a little bit of a dick. Shall we?
A lot of bit of a dick.
He's an asshole. By the way, did you see the comments that he made about what the Buccaneers did on the Jumbotron? And then he was talking to. What was your thoughts on that, by the way, before we get into that? And the comments that he made about him being the more talented quarterback than Tom Brady, when they're supposed to be like friends, aren't they like cool? Like, I know they joke around a lot, but aren't they like the golf buddies? And
They do golf. I have seen like videos and stuff of them golfing together, but I mean, he's not lying.
so
He-
I'm the, you know,
He is what he is, dude. I mean, listen, if you just take everything that man's done outside of football, he's a train wreck of a human being. Nobody in his family could stand him. Nobody in his family talks to him. He's gone through like 3 like grade A, like, you know, female celebrities that have dumped him, and they said they just couldn't stand him. Like, the dude literally would wake up in the morning and talk to himself in the mirror. Like, he's a freaking crazy person, dude. He's an egomaniac. Like, Green Bay better hope they don't drug test him randomly, because he's on something.
There's no way in that Packers game, in that Bears game on Sunday Night Football, he was not high after that game.
Oh yeah, after his knee injury that he had.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
his
talking
post
about
game
this year.
Oh, this year.
Same thing. He was high as hell. He was gone. There's no way.
He gets that like blank stare. Like, he does interviews and he's just like.
He said.
And they ask him a question. He doesn't look at the people. It's crazy.
He said something about psychedelics before, though. So obviously, like, that's not. He said in the parameters to make it where it's like legal and he's not going to be caught up with anything. But I mean, he's mentioned that before.
Of course he is.
He's a crazy person.
This scumbag.
All right, but we got Aaron Rodgers and we got Brett Favre, and it's funny. Like, you have Aaron Rodgers as one of your quarterbacks, and you have your franchise is a bigger scumbag as the other quarterback. It's kind of a crazy thought process. You got Hank Aaron. A lot of people are going to Hank Aaron. A lot of people that aren't very familiar with Hank Aaron, they think Atlanta Braves. No. Majority of his career, he was the Milwaukee Braves. And if you knew a lot about Hank and you followed him, know that he finished the last 2 years of his career in Milwaukee because he loved playing there so much. Yep. So 14 years of his career he played in Milwaukee, 9 in Atlanta. So he lands on the Milwaukee list. So Hank Aaron, the greatest home run hitter this game has ever seen.
Yep.
And then you got a guy that's currently playing, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Did a pretty good job with that. Giannis for the Milwaukee Bucks, already an MVP, Finals MVP, NBA champion, and his legacy is still running. So Wisconsin's got a hell of a list. Gentlemen, discuss.
I'm going to give you the biggest, the best, the coolest Hank Aaron stat that there is, and this is just going to, show credence to how amazing he was and for how long amazing he was, or the longevity of his career. He is the only person you could say this about in the history of the sport of baseball. If you take Hank Aaron had 755 home runs. If you take Hank Aaron's home runs away from his total hits list, he still has 3,000 hits. That's how good of a hitter Hank Aaron was. You look at anybody else. You look at Mickey Mantle, any of those guys. You take their 550 home runs away from them, they got like 2,600 hits. The man had 3,100 and some hits plus 755 home runs. That's how great he was. Most people's eyes, he's still the home run king. He is in my eyes. And on top of that, just a great human being and a great ambassador of the game. You'll never, ever hear anybody anywhere say a bad thing about Hank Aaron, anywhere. Nothing bad about him that's ever been written, anything. Gene brought up a good point. He always stayed loyal to Milwaukee. He went to Atlanta because that's where the franchise went, and he went with them. And he still came back and gave back and played his last 2.5 years in Milwaukee because he loved it there and he loved the people there so much. Dude is an absolute icon, pillar of the game of baseball. Sucks, one of those guys I really never got to see to play other than, watching him on video and stuff like that. But you're talking about one of the 4 or 5 best baseball players ever. And that's Hank Aaron.
Love it. Cottrell, your thoughts?
Yeah, so on the list as a whole, real quick on Hank Aaron, I don't view him as, he's not my home run king. I saw Barry hit 756 out the park. Say what you want about steroids, all of that. I'll still give him credit for that. But with that being said, obviously Hank Aaron was the ghost that everyone was chasing. And I mean, we see it now even with Albert, like how long of a career he's had, and he just got to 700. And so for Hank Aaron to have, 55 more home runs than that, like it just shows you truly how incredible that feat is. And that was, I mean, outside of the consecutive hit streak, that was probably one of the most untouchable numbers in baseball, clearly. So give him all his roses for that.
Someone had to cheat to break it.
Exactly.
That's all you need to know.
Exactly. So give him all his roses for that. Everybody on the show who watches the show knows how much I'm a fan of Aaron Rodgers on the field specifically. So I will give him all his roses, of course. I think he's the most talented thrower of the football ever, and I will stand on that. He's not the GOAT, but he is the most talented quarterback to step on the field, in my opinion. And then you got Brett Favre, who was his predecessor. And Brett Favre we all view him as one of the most overrated quarterbacks in NFL history, but it still doesn't take away. I mean, he was a Hall of Fame quarterback. He was still, really good quarterback. And then the last person on this list with Giannis, obviously he still has a lot more story left to give, but he's already been an MVP. He's already have a finals MVP. He's won a championship already. And I think if his Bucks team can stay healthy, Giannis is showing right now that if he's on the court, your team has a chance to go win a championship. We saw it in the championship run that he had. I mean, 50 points to close out the series. That's just special. Giannis is shown that he's the best player in basketball right now. And, when you got that, that's really special. This Wisconsin, I wasn't just thinking about Wisconsin on the regular, like off the top of my head. Like I wasn't thinking that they'd have a list this strong, but they're gonna be a tough out.
It's interesting because obviously, when we start naming cities, like again, you forget about Hank Aaron. So now you're putting one of the top, like I said, 4 or 5 baseball players probably ever to play. He's anchoring a list. You have 2 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, even though they only went, each one apiece. And I do agree with you with Brett Favre. I think he's overrated. But that being said, he is in the Hall of Fame and he did win a Super Bowl. I'm not talking about Aaron Rodgers anymore. Giannis is where Giannis kind of makes it tough because he's nowhere close to being done. And the chapters of his career that he has written already are incredible. And then when you factor in the story of him and his family, it just makes it that much more unbelievable. They're a strong city now, and it'd be crazy, God willing, we're doing this in 5 more years to come back and revisit it because they're probably even better then. You probably factor in he probably wins, just to be safe. He probably wins at least one more MVP between now and then. Maybe wins another championship. And I mean the city's just that much tougher to knock out. And I mean, who knows? Maybe Ego Man wins another Super Bowl. So definitely kind of an under the radar type city that is pretty damn strong.
And I will say too, the thing with Giannis that I want to give him his respect for is that although his career is early, still in this early stages, I mean, he was already in the NBA's 75 best players of all time. So that shows you how special they already view him. And I'd say right now he's in the peak of his career. So like you said, it's sky's the limit for him.
Agreed completely. Let's introduce New York too. So I kind of did this in a fun way, if you guys don't mind. Just kind of humor me here. So we got Aaron Rodgers, and his counterpart for New York too is Joe Namath, another really weird talking quarterback that won Super Bowl and made a name for himself by being just kind of a creep, right?
Kind of.
Joe Namath. Yeah, well, being
let's
nice.
Let's ask Susie Colbert about it. See what she says.
We also, speaking of Susie Colbert, we have Brett Favre versus Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson, Brett Favre, to me, is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the history of the game. And Mike Tyson, to me, is one of the most overrated boxers in the history of the sport. So Mike Tyson still, listen, Mike Tyson is still a heavyweight champion, one of the greatest boxers ever. I just think he's super overrated, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Third, I have the two legendary baseball players. We got Hank Aaron versus Tom Seaver. Tom Seaver is an absolute stud of a baseball player. If you don't know about Tom Seaver, look at him up. He's the greatest Met ever. It's not close. Talk to any Met fan, they'll tell you Tom Seaver. And then the last one I have is the great story, the great Abby Wambach and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I kind of matched them up in that way. Abby Wambach, in my opinion, could be the second or third greatest women's soccer player of all time. I know Cottrell has strong feelings about this. You have her one.
Yeah.
I have her second or third. That's fine. Aunt Abby was the staple to multiple World Cups, multiple gold medals. Aunt Abby was the leader of that United States Olympic team for the longest time. Got nothing but respect for her. Tom Seaver, Mike Tyson, Joe Namath. That's your New York 2 list. Now, how we did New York 2, let me just explain it to the listeners. It was the Mets, Jets, Islanders, who didn't have a representative on this list, and any other New York athlete that would be considered like a Mike Tyson or an Abby Wambach.
From New York.
Correct. That plays an individual sport. That like does not have like a, like there's people that are from New York that played for, like the Angels. That wouldn't matter.
Correct.
So your thoughts on New York 2?
It's interesting. I mean, I think the way you lined it up is interesting. You mentioned Brett and Mike Tyson, and I feel like they're kind of in the same boat. I share the passion of agreeing with you that Mike Tyson is severely overrated, and I have no problem standing on that hill. I think he's great. I think he's entertaining. I thought he was awesome to watch fight. You can't name me anybody on his record that he beat that was in the prime of their career that was worth a shit. You can't.
Absolutely. I ask people all the time, name 3 fighters he beat. And name his best 3 wins. I'll ask anybody that thinks Mike Tyson's like a great heavyweight. And the first name they always bring up to beat Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes was 50. 44.
Yeah, he was 50. He was mentally, brain-wise, he was probably 66. Between that, I mean, people like, he beat Peter McNeely, who's like the boxing version of like Andrew Dice Clay. Like the dude just fell over. Like he all his good fights he lost. He lost to Vander Holyfield twice, and he lost to Lennox Lewis twice. And those were by far the best.
Though. He beat Glass Joe.
Yeah,
Mike Tyson's part. I'm just kidding.
Those are the 2 best fighters that he faced in his career, and he was 0-4 against them. But Joe Namath is kind of the same boat. Joe Namath is almost like it's a cool story. I don't know how great of a player he is. He won the 1 Super Bowl. He got into the Hall of Fame pretty much off that one game, beating the Colts in the Super Bowl that were, apparently like unbeatable, and the guaranteeing of the victory and all that stuff. It's almost like a legendary story. I don't know how great of a player he was. And everybody, most people Cottrell's age would know more from the ESPN thing when he was hammered in the stands and hitting on Susie Colbert on live TV. Joe Namath is also the first guy that wore white shoes. Like it's weird stuff. I mean, he was a good player. I don't think nobody is Joe Namath in their top 10 quarterbacks ever. Not anybody that's ever watched the goddamn game anyway. Abby Wambach, I think you're between her and Tom Sawyer, or
Tom Seaver.
Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer. Huckleberry Finn.
Huckleberry Finn. I'm around too many goddamn people that listen to Rush too.
Tom Sawyer.
I'm on fire tonight.
It's up there with Bob Evans.
Yeah, Bob Evans down on the farm. Great breakfast buffet. But
oh man,
they're probably anchoring this group. Abby, for me personally, if I, not that I wasn't a big Abby fan, I was always a big Mia fan though. And I grew up watching them. I think Mia, to some degree, did more for the game. I think as a player, Abby played longer as well. I think Abby's the better player. So, I mean, she would be one for me. She anchored the national team for close to a decade, won a couple World Cups, couple golds. I mean, she still is the all-time goal scoring record for any female soccer player ever. She is. It's hard to argue the case. It really is. And then Tom Seaver Sawyer was a great pitcher for the Mets for a long time. Got overshadowed a lot by Nolan Ryan, and there was a lot of years that he had a better year than Nolan Ryan. Same kind of pitcher, hard fastball. He's one of the first guys that threw a split finger a lot, sinker they call him now, two-seamer, whatever you want to call him. And he had a nasty streak in him as well. He would hit people. Played a long time. He was, his best years were at the Mets. I believe he played for the Angels as well at the end, I think. But Hall of Fame guy, great pitcher. Don't have anything bad to say about him. I just think as a whole, I just don't think this group measures up to Milwaukee too well.
I think Wisconsin wins this out. Nothing against New York 2. I think LA 2 is going to be a lot better than New York 2.
LA 2 is nasty.
Nothing against this group, but I think New York 2 it needed to be there.
Yeah, I mean,
Seaver played a couple years for the Cincinnati Reds and the White Sox.
Right.
But I have but he also had 3 sub-2 ERA years, and he had 17 seasons. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 seasons in which he had a sub-3 ERA for the entire year. That is absurd. Also 5 20-win seasons. Tom Seaver's anchoring this list, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
But I go Wisconsin here.
New York 2 is a team of nicknames. You got Broadway Joe, you got Iron Mike, you got Tom Terrific, and then you got Aunt Abby. If it was a nickname battle, I think they edge out Wisconsin just because Wisconsin doesn't have any cool nicknames on their side. But I mean,
whoa, Greek Freak.
That's one. They're 1 for 4.
One.
I mean, what do you call
Hammer and
Hank?
Hammer and Hank is one.
But I mean, I'm taking the other 4 a lot more.
Well, yeah, because Brett Favre.
I got a great nickname for Brett Favre. I call him Thief.
Yeah,
scumbag.
Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers are scumbag and asshole collectively. So, I mean, it's probably not going to win many battles.
I'll add this again, and I'll add it again, and I'll add it again. I will continue talking about how much of a piece of shit Brett Favre is because not getting national news that it deserves. And I will continuously bring that up on this show because it is just absolutely atrocious what this man did. Favre is the biggest scammer. I'm so sick to my stomach.
Listen, it's getting national news. It's going to be slower because of the way. Listen, dude, it's a federal investigation at this point. So,
I was going to say, is there isn't that illegal?
Yeah.
Like, can you
yeah,
can't
right,
do
so,
that.
So here's what I'm going to say. The 2 people that he was apparently the middleman for, they have now both been federally indicted. They both agreed to cooperate with the government. He's going to get arrested shortly. It's going to take longer than people would like it to. It's the federal government. They don't do anything fast if you're not aware with the way we work. It's coming, though. It's coming. The walls are closing in. It's coming. He's going to get his due. Everything Gene said about him is 100% accurate. I'm not saying that. But I would say the common misconception is they're not doing anything about him, and that's not the case. That's all I'm saying. He's going to get arrested sooner than later.
It's not the point about him being arrested. It's the point about the coverage. Every day I hear about Ime Udoka. I don't hear about Brett Favre as much as I'm hearing about Udoka. And I get it that one is still prevalent and active in their sport and one isn't. It doesn't mean that this doesn't need to be a national debate or national topic about what he did wrong. I think that it's getting brushed under the rug on a lot of national media, and I don't like that.
if you look at the when it happened and it all came out, the only thing I'd say is I follow Bleacher and I follow ESPN and all that stuff on Twitter. They broke it when it happened, dude. It was all there. It's not getting the attention that you think it should right now because it's in a holding pattern. I guarantee you, if the FBI shows up on Brett Favre's front door to take him into custody, it's going to get national coverage, dude. It's at a slow point in the investigation, but it's going in the direction that it needs to go. The whole issue with the Boston Celtics thing is because it happened and it was immediate. The story broke, and the next day they were like, he's going to get suspended for the year. It all happened that quick. If Brett Favre's story would have broken the next day, they're like, the FBI is going to pick him up. It would have stayed on the front page for a lot longer. It's going to be back there. It's just two totally different situations.
I think like one's way worse than the other.
Well, I think the only thing with the Boston thing is we don't know yet, and I think the people that's
my biggest issue though is that we don't know, but yet we're going to keep hearing about it until.
Well, there's three people. There's three people in the national media that work for sports, have it be ESPN or TNT or whoever.
Kyle,
Matt Barnes and Ramona Shelburne, who have all come out and said they've seen the details of it, and they say it's horrifying and it's way worse than anybody knows. So until those details come out, when they do, it's no different than anything else we talk about on the show. I really don't want to comment on it until we have the full picture of it. And I don't think we're going to have that for some time either. So, I mean, Boston was already doing this behind the scenes, and they held it in-house for a long time before they pretty much had to make a move to suspend him. But that was going on for months, and nobody caught wind of it at all in the media. So, once that comes out, if it's not as bad as these people are making it out to be, then yeah, I mean, then it's a different discussion. But until then, it's no different than anything else we talk about. It's tough to talk about without the full picture.
All right, well, let's get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me, guys. We're all voted unanimously for Wisconsin. We only have a few left as far as I think LA2 next week versus Tampa sounds like the way to go. Let's give LA2 a little bit of a cakewalk because they're probably the overall number one seed in the whole tournament. But let's wrap this up. Let's get a bracket together and let's start putting that bracket together because we're wrapping up the preliminary rounds and we don't have many cities left. So I'm looking forward to really breaking down a full bracket of this because we've created a hell of a Mount Rushmore list. Better one than Sporting News did, I'll tell you that. But you gotta be kidding me this week, Control?
I do. I mean, I feel like I
always
could really
prepared. Consummate professional.
I feel like I could really go with the entire 49ers Broncos game, but I mean, how could I not go with just the one instance of Jimmy Garoppolo pulling a Dan Orlovsky, stepping on the back line of the end zone and getting the safety? And then what makes it worse is that the final score was 11-10. The 49ers lose by 1 point. The safety is literally the difference in the ball game. So this week for me, Jimmy G, situational awareness, everything. Come on, you got to be kidding me.
Come on, you got to be kidding me. Shall we?
So, I mean, we just talked about it, so I'm not going to go much further into it, but I did want to use it this week because I think it'd be remiss for us not to comment on the situation. Where it leads with Brett Favre at the end of the day, I'm not quite sure. I think all the signs are pointing for him to get indicted by the government, and that is what should happen at the end. But the facts of the matter that we do know for sure that that are 100% concrete is, he helped his college scam money out of a welfare fund to help build a volleyball pavilion for the Southern Miss girls volleyball team, which his daughter was a member of. You say that and hear that, and it's kind of jarring and kind of, it takes people back, just an initial reaction. And then when you dig a little deeper and you find out Mississippi is literally the poorest state in the United States, and 1 in 9 children in Mississippi is what they call in food poverty, which means on average they don't know where the next meal is coming from. And you have a guy like this who, in his defense to some degree has given a lot back to Mississippi. that's why there was no reason for it to go down this way and to be in bed with crooked government officials and literally take money out of that fund. And, some people are saying they were intending to give it back. I don't believe that for a second. I don't. And to use it to build a volleyball pavilion that didn't really need to be built. Scumbag doesn't do it justice. I don't really know what the word is, to be quite honest with you. Gene brought it up earlier. This is not Brett Favre's, first run-in with being a douchebag. It's not. He's gotten in monetary trouble before. He had the trouble before with the one reporter for the Jets where he was, sending nudes unsolicited. Just not a good guy. I mean, you can break it down however you want. If you're a Brett Favre fan, sorry. He was exciting to watch on the football field, but there's more to life than football. And I believe when these guys get done playing, have whatever sport it be in, with the money they make and the responsibility they have to help grow the game and really give back to people when they're done playing. And he's not done any of that. He's actually done the opposite. So it's going to get worse. I'm sure we'll probably comment on this again somewhere down the road after his arrest, hopefully, which I hope is coming soon. So for me this week, I'm going with Brett Favre.
Come on. You got to be kidding me. I love it. The second time we've done that because I did that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. You got to double down on it.
I'll triple down on it. I quadruple down on it. I don't care. My you got to be kidding me this week is Bill Belichick. And I don't know if you've seen the report yet, but he was asked about Mac Jones's injury, and 12 times he reiterated day to day, day to day, day to day. Hey, so look, is it a high ankle sprain? Day to day. Do you have, what? I'm not a doctor. What did the doctor? Day to day, and repeated it over and over again. I understand that Bill Belichick doesn't want to be a part of the media, and he does it because he has to. I do want him to understand, and I think most of the sports world needs to understand that sports is a entertainment industry. If there wasn't entertainment to go with it, this industry wouldn't be as popular as it is. You wouldn't have the greatest players in the world making millions and billions of dollars. I think it's hilarious. I think that Bill Belichick is entertaining when he does it, but it, almost like a fun, you got to be kidding me this week. But I wanted to bring it to light. So my you got to be kidding me this week is Bill Belichick. Come on. You got to be kidding me. Hopefully we get everything up.
Yeah, to Kyle's one-to-one comment about scamming for welfare money is bigger deal than a coach's affair. I wholeheartedly agree. The problem is I think it's more than that, and I think that's why he got suspended. Still don't know if it's a bigger deal, and again, we're not going to know that until all the details come out. But like I said, you had Matt Barnes, Ramona Shelburne, and the other guy from Yahoo. I can't remember his name. I keep wanting to say Field Yates, but it's something close to that, but it's not him. I obviously know who Field Yates is, but they somehow they didn't say no, not a shame. They just said they all kind of came out and supported them, and they were like, it's kind of messed up, to Kyle's point, having an affair really has nothing to do with basketball. Like, okay, you want to say you broke the rule, you dated somebody, within the organization, that's fine. That's not worthy of a year's suspension. They've all
There's more that will come out in that story.
Yeah.
There's more that will come out in that story. There's more that will come out with that story.
They all backtracked and have withdrawn their support from them because they said they've been briefed on the details. Ramona Shelburne used the word horrifying. So I don't know how bad that is. I don't know what that means. But coming from a woman, I think for now, at least, that has to hold some water. So I just think it's unfortunate. I mean, like anything else is, but we got to see what he did. I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
I completely agree with that.
You got to be kidding me. I mean, he's married to Nia Long. Like, how do you fumble that? Like, that's
he went
that alone.
That
alone is, you got to be kidding me, worthy.
That's true. If it wasn't such a sensitive thing, probably could have used it.
I just want to, I before I use it, I'll use it. I just want the details to come out.
Because
Absolutely.
I will say this. I apologize to the listeners. I was a year ago, probably today, I was the one saying Deshaun Watson's innocent until he's proven guilty. And I never I never, just said he was innocent, but I said I wanted to see more of the details, but I definitely gave him the benefit of, and I brought up the fact that the lawyer was the neighbors with the owner of the Texans, and I alluded to it. So I apologize for that. And I don't want to ever be put on that situation again to where I speak on something until I have the facts and what actually happened, because I stood up for Deshaun Watson and I shouldn't have. And that's not going to happen again on the show. So I fully know what he did was scumworthy. So I want to get the full details of Emi Adoku before I comment on it fully. Any final thoughts, gentlemen? I just want to wish a shout out. I know I said it in the chat. Loyal listener, guy's been listening to this all the time. Probably listen to the rest of it tomorrow morning when he's at work. He was in the beginning of the show, but my man John Tishbaum had a birthday yesterday.
Yes,
happy birthday, Tish. So
happy birthday,
I want
bud.
to wish him a happy birthday. And Jacob McDevitt.
Today?
On our team Sunday.
All right.
So, I mean, it's going to be for next week. So I just want to wish him a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, bud. I only have one. Gene knows as well. Guy actually listens to this show, I think, more than he leads on. But my buddy Evan Porter, guy we play against, I play with him. He's on my tournament team, but his birthday was yesterday. So wish him a belated happy birthday as well.
Good stuff. Cottrell, any final thoughts?
No birthdays for me. No final thoughts. Hoping to be 3-1 and by the end of the week. That's what I'm hoping for.
Who are you guys playing?
Atlanta.
Yeah, that's a no.
No, it's not. Atlanta wins that game. I got some weird.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think Atlanta wins the game.
Atlanta wins that game. Listen, I'll record the picks. I'll screen report them. I'll put them on TikTok again. I'm going to try to get them up tomorrow morning, but it's very tough with the Ustream. So appreciate everybody listening in. We'll get everything posted as soon as possible. Thank you very much for Dante helping me set this up for the restream. And appreciate everybody listening. So many new listeners in the comments, in the chat. Appreciate all the new followers on TikTok. And I'll continue. By the way, there's a contest coming up. Some final thought. TikTok's best handicappers for the NFL. And I've been invited to it. So you'll see me there with people that have hundreds of thousands of followers. And I'll be competing against them. So hopefully I do pretty well on this one. I'm 6-3 on the NFL season right now. Could be 7-3 if you count the Colts, but we won't count that. But 6-3 in the NFL season. I only get 3 a week. But as far as my overall picks, you guys see what I do in the NFL. Shally and Cottrell absolutely kill at NCAA football every year. Their numbers last year were staggering. So thank you guys very much for listening. Download us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, anywhere you listen to podcasts. So without that, this is Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, show 103, 2-year anniversary coming next week. Signing out.